Well, hello, everyone. Again, thank you for making the time to be a part of this conversation. Really grateful for you and what you're doing in different parts of the country. And I think we all just need a moment to take a breath and reflect. And also, um, another part of this conversation is to express gratitude for Cassandra and all that she has contributed in this space and shoulder to shoulder over the years. So just a note about who we are at the Shoulder to Shoulder campaign. We are a national multi-faith coalition of religious denominations and faith and interfaith and community organizations who are doing the work of building a more pluralistic and inclusive United States of America. And we do that work in our small niche of addressing the problem of anti-Muslim discrimination in the United States. And we see ourselves as one part of this greater ecosystem of organizations and leaders like you all who are committed to this vision and doing our work in different ways and in different spaces. We're hosting this conversation, reflections on gratitude in challenging times, really for two main reasons. One is the holidays coming up, the Thanksgiving holiday next week, the end of the year, and we want to take a moment to reflect and unpack how we're going to navigate through these tough times. And we'll also have a moment to connect on these themes in breakout rooms, connect with each other. And then also, as I mentioned, Cassandra Lawrence is transitioning off our team and into a new role, and we want to take a moment to give thanks for her leadership here at Shoulder to Shoulder. So, as noted in the event description, I'll take a moment to just read again. The themes of peace and joy and cheer often emerge at the end of the year holiday seasons. And many of us are holding a long list of worries, fears, and anxieties about everything happening here at home and around the world. And the prospect of gathering with family and friends, some who may have voted very differently than us, some who are seeing the world in radically different ways, that feels more challenging than ever before. And the question we want to explore among many is, can taking a pause and reflecting on gratitude be of help at all? Or is it a naive, neutralizing, and shallow exercise? And I'm so excited to uplift the voice and wisdom of Kaitlin Curtice. Kaitlin is an award-winning author, poet, storyteller, and public speaker. As an enrolled citizen of the Potawatomi Nation, Kaitlin writes on the intersections of spirituality and identity and how that shifts throughout our lives. I personally have so benefited from Caitlin's insights and beautiful writing, and I totally encourage everyone to follow Kaitlin on social media for her words of wisdom and sharing. Kaitlin, want to pass it over to you to offer some reflections and sharing. And again, we'll have a little bit of a conversation. We'll have a moment to join into breakout rooms and discuss amongst us all. And then we'll transition to offering gratitude to Cassandra. So thanks again, everyone, for joining. And Kaitlin, passing it to you.
Thank you. Bonjour, everyone. Kaitlin Curtice and Dejna Potawatomi and Dow. Hello, my name is Kaitlin Curtice, and I am a citizen of the Potawatomi Nation, and I'm so honored to just be here with all of you. And I think no matter what time we're living through, but especially in difficult times, it is so essential to pause and to breathe. The most simple act of just pausing and breathing, of taking a moment to honor the time that we're in and not to negate what it is, but to hold it in that sort of steady presence within ourselves. And so I'm so glad to do that with all of you here. I want to start with a poem from my book, Living Resistance, and then I'm going to lead us through a little bit together. What is a poem? It is the quietest, softest part of you, held to an invisible microphone, held up to the light, held up beyond the hustle and bustle of the day and the groaning aches of the night. A poem is the anger that releases itself in your time of greatest need, when you are ready to fracture before you believe again, ready to break open and receive yourself to yourself. A poem is the whisper that tells everything, the secret that cannot be denied. You are exactly as you've always been. Beloved word, spoken self, relieved ache, tender child. The poem is you. It always was. So I want to invite us to close our eyes for a moment. So get comfortable in your seat. Maybe take a few deep breaths and just settle in for just a moment. We're just going to close our eyes for a minute here, and then we'll come back together again. I'm going to name some words for us. So I'm going to say a few words, and I just want you to notice what sort of comes into your mind's eye when I say these different words. You're welcome to shut off your screen if that, your camera, if that feels comfortable for you. So here's some words I'm going to name, and I just want you to enter in and see what shows up in your mind. Poet, poet. Artist, artist. Activist, activist. Prophet, prophet. Leader, leader. Storyteller, storyteller. As you keep your eyes closed, what or who do you picture with these words, with these ideas? What do you feel in your body when you hear words like poet or activist or prophet or storyteller? What do they speak into you and into the world? I'm going to repeat the words again. And I want you to just calm your body, calm your system, and just see what shows up. Poet, artist, activist, prophet, leader, storyteller. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. And so I wonder what or who you pictured just now. And, what or who you pictured sort of says something about the time we are living in, about your own personal experiences, about your place in the collective experience of all of us. When I said poet, did you picture a child? Did you picture someone who writes poetry that you know of? Did someone unexpected appear in your mind's eye when you heard the word prophet? Were you surprised? Were you surprised at the storyteller who showed themselves to you? Maybe it was an animal. Maybe it was a tree or a roaring river. Maybe your mother showed up, or an ancestor, or someone unclear, someone you have yet to meet, an idea. Whatever or whoever showed up there, we are meeting in an important moment in history right now. We're holding space between those who came before us and those who come after us. We're asking what it means to be us right now. We are not yet ancestors, but we are ancestors in the making. And so what we do here, what we hold and embody, it matters. I thought of this story when I was preparing for our time together. A few years ago, I was in Michigan in the Upper Peninsula and was with some other Potawatomi people and elders. And one of the elders was teaching us about the most important thing, the first moment that we wake up and place our feet on the ground when we get out of bed is gratitude. The most important thing we can embody from that moment that our consciousness is waking up from sleep is to hold gratitude. And it makes me think of the Potawatomi phrase for the early morning as the sun is rising. It's Minowabin, Minowabin. And it sort of speaks to this idea that it is good for the sun to shine on us. It is good for us to see the light of grandfather's sun, to wake up to that. And so we hold gratitude and care with the earth, but there's also other narratives that sort of swirl around us. The narrative that says it's idealistic or naive or it's weak to hold gratitude. That gratitude is something that isn't deep and enduring, much like hope. Sometimes we think that hope is not deep or enduring or care for ourselves and one another. But I think a lot about what my elders said that day, and I think it's really important. And it has to do with our bodies, it has to do with our souls, it has to do with taking the time to show up to this moment that we are in right now. So when we practice gratitude, we aren't ignoring the realities of the world, but we're sort of grounding ourselves deeper in those realities while we are also going deeper into our own souls so that we can meet this moment, right? So we can enter into the sacred. And we all do it in different ways, but we do it together. And that's so, so beautiful. I love the poet and teacher and storyteller and prophet Clarissa Pinkola Estes. And years ago, she wrote this essay, and I go back to it all the time. And I just want to read you a little bit from it because I share it. When we enter moments that are difficult, seasons that are difficult, I come back to these words all the time. And I think that they're really important and enduring. She says, I urge you, ask you, gentle you, to please not spend your spirit dry by bewailing these difficult times. Especially do not lose hope, most particularly because the fact is we were made for these times. Yes, for years we have been learning, practicing, been in training for, and just waiting to meet on this exact plane of engagement. I cannot tell you often enough that we are definitely the leaders we have been waiting for, and that we have been raised since childhood for this time precisely. So as we head into the holiday season, as we head into the sacred season of winter, we have the chance to go inward, this time of hibernation and care, to examine our own stories, to ask who we are as individuals and as people collectively, while being aware of what's happening around us in the world, in the United States. We hold all of it. We hold all of it with care, and we get to say yes to that gift that is gratitude of holding that. And I think that doing that will prepare us for whatever is ahead of us, however it shows up. Um, the morning after election night, when I found out who was elected, I was laying on my couch, and it's like 5:30 in the morning here, and as soon as I read the results, I kind of held that in myself, trying to take it in, and my being went straight to poetry. Um, and I wrote 3 separate poems, and it just occurred to me today that the poems maybe go together. I wrote these 3 different poems that were just these, like, it was just me responding. And I shared one of them on Instagram that day. But then I realized today, as I was going to read that one, that maybe they all go together. Maybe it is all of it. That as human beings, we hold so many complex paradoxes. We hold so much liminality, liminal space that we don't fully understand, and somehow we bring it and pull it together to create who we are individually and collectively. So I want to read this poem. The journey toward peace happens in a hurting world because we recognize that the same magic in a far-off star is the same as the stuff in our tender human hearts. One day, the fierce seeds rattling around in our chests will grow out of us as wildflowers along the old highways. Until then, they make us long to know ourselves better. A reminder that the most beautiful things are born in the dark and take time to finally call us home. If we're not going back and they're not moving forward, then we will stretch the bubble of time in both directions until it bursts. And then we will meet in that field that Rumi talks about, lay down in it, and try to remember what it always meant to be kin. Thank you.
Thank you so much, So gorgeous and brilliant, Caitlin. Really appreciative of these reflections. And when you invited us to think about who comes to mind with those words, I think of you as one of those leaders, those storytellers, those prophetic voices in our time. I have, so many questions to ask, and in many ways, you answered a lot of them in the conversation, and want to also invite those that are here in the room to take a moment to reflect. And so we're gonna before we move into breakout rooms, and Cassandra will invite us into a question to reflect on with each other. Want to ask you, Caitlin, a few things. One is any advice for balancing self-care and communal care? So, how when you're on an airplane and they say put your own oxygen mask on first before helping others, with theirs. So there's a real need to take care of ourselves and do what we need to fill our cups so that we can fill others' cups. But then also the real need to address the societal brokenness, the power imbalances, inequality, injustice, the mis and disinformation, just all the
Yeah.
issues we care about being in front of us and needing of our attention. How do we balance the self-care and communal care? Um, and then, a question about how you are keeping sane, how you are sustaining yourself and not getting fatigued. What motivates you to keep going? So, two questions before we move into breakout rooms for a break.
Yeah, I love that. I think that we uh in the time that we're living in, as much as we want to talk about sort of self-love and care and community care, as being very organic and flowing, we also have to set boundaries around it. And, if I to do some of my most, sort of medicine filled writing, I have to not be on social media a bit so that my mind and spirit can get to where they need to go, and I'm not sort of taking in some noise, if that makes sense. I think it's the same with our care, that we have to hold that space for ourselves and keep it held and practice that. For me, it's early mornings journaling and reading and tending to my soul. And but what should happen when we do that is this, even though we're setting boundaries around it, what should happen is that it's this natural reciprocity, that when I'm caring for my own soul, I think of a friend and I text them and tell them I love them and I'm thinking of them. And maybe that opens up a conversation of what they might need from me. And and the sort of the micro should always be tending to us and then flowing out of us into the macro. That what we do on our individual level of who we are should always lead to something on the micro level in society. And so for me as a writer, I have to tend to myself in order to write the stuff I actually need to write in the world. And that's tricky because, you know, um we have to ask questions of what it means to show up, because we all show up differently. So we won't know how we need to show up in the world unless we're paying attention to ourselves. I can try to show up as, Nina shows up, but that won't work because I'm not Nina. We can't sort of copy and paste everything or try to do all the things, because we're not built for that as human beings. We have to care and we have to hold the space of it, but we have to figure out where our gifts show up best in the world and be honest about that. I don't want us being a bunch of completely overloaded people with so much noise inside of us that it's just rattling around and we can't find ourselves. Does that make sense? We need to be able to find ourselves and then show up in our communities and in the spaces that need us. And I think that that is the tension of all of it, and always has been for me as well. And um, not doubting what, my personal sort of medicine and gifts to the world, and not doubting that. But there have been times I've definitely doubted it or thought it's not enough. This poem I wrote is not enough, or this book I wrote is not enough. And so reminding ourselves to show up in the world as we are and as who we can be is so important. And I know it doesn't feel like it is, but it's so, so important for whatever is coming, whatever is ahead. Does that make sense? Did that answer both of them?
Totally,
Okay.
totally. Thank you. Yes. I feel like it's such a call to turn to our spirituality, turn to our best selves, and that is unique to each of us, essentially, not a one size fits all. Well, I'm going to pass it now to Cassandra. Thank you so much, Kaitlin, and pass it to Cassandra to open us up into breakout rooms.
Thanks. Thank you guys. Thank you, Kaitlin, for your reflections. What really stood out for me in your reflections, Kaitlin, was also the practices of gratitude. And for me, the practice of gratitude has become a mindfulness practice of how to stay present to the goodness and love and flourishing and care around me now, as much as we are working towards the goodness and care and flourishing in life of the future that we want for all people. And especially in our work countering anti-Muslim discrimination, but also just working towards hopefully better communities. I sometimes forget that now-ness, the now of love and care and people and ancestors that are here with me now. And so you talked about like texting a friend. I have a friend of mine who anytime his practices, anytime you think of someone, like you're just walking down the street and all of a sudden I think of Becca, you should just text them and say, "Hey, Becca, just thinking about you."
Mm-hmm.
Because for him, it's like a nudge from the
Mm-hmm.
universe or from spirit that you should connect.
Yeah.
And you don't know why, but you just should follow the nudge.
Yeah.
And so in our breakout groups, what we would love for you all to share with each other are the practices um, that are keeping you grounded in the goodness and gratitude of now, as much as we are moving towards the goodness of the future. And so we're going to break you up into some small groups.
I hope you enjoyed that opportunity to connect. So now just want to transition to offering gratitude to Cassandra for everything that she is and all that she has contributed to Shoulder over the years. And first want to invite an old friend of Shoulder and a current friend of Shoulder, our previous Shoulder executive director, Catherine Orsborn, the one who is responsible for hiring Cassandra 7 years ago, to say a few words.
And you, Nina. She hired us both.
Oh, thank you. It's really good to be here and to see some familiar faces on here that I haven't seen in a while. So, good to be with you all. And yeah, I was just honored to share a few words about Cassandra. So I met Cassandra about a decade ago now, when had just come into the role as executive director of Shoulder, and I think it was through a women's lunch meetup in DC that I got to know Cassandra, and her heart for this work, and when it came time to hire for a few roles, when I was about to go out on my first maternity leave, actually in 2017, I immediately reached out to Cassandra to just say, consider applying for this, and I'm so glad that you did. And just really had such a pleasure of working with Cassandra over those years that we overlapped at Shoulder, and of course beyond that as well. And just want to name some of the traits I've had the opportunity to see in Cassandra over our time working together. I think everybody here probably knows these traits if you've worked with her, but what stands out to me so much is her passion and her drive for the work of justice, her integrity. I think she approaches every decision she makes, every part of the work that she does with such integrity, and just the deep care and empathy that Cassandra approaches every single person and situation, is something that has always stood out to me as such a gift that you have, Cassandra. And so I know that you'll be missed so much in your leadership role at Shoulder and working in DC circles. And But I'm so happy for you and excited for the students that you'll be working with, and for all that you're going to pour into them, and that they'll pour into you in this next phase of work for you. So just wanted to express my deep gratitude and just honor you with some words, and I'm really grateful to be part of this today. So thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. Well, Esther, would you like to say a few words? Esther is our co-chair of the Shoulder to Shoulder campaign, and pass it to you.
Yes, I would. Sorry, everyone's at home because this is what the last 5 years have been. Oh, Cassandra, I'm really going to miss you. I have so enjoyed getting to know you, and bringing you and Catherine both actually helped bring me into the fold as Shoulder to Shoulder when I first joined the team on the executive committee. There's so much that I appreciate about you, your wise presence, specifically, actually, also your non-anxious presence. I've always enjoyed that that sense of calm when I'm around you. And I also want to share a particular piece that really moved me that relates a lot to I think the interfaith piece and the work that you're going to go do. So I'm a rabbi, a Jew, and just as the past year has been really hard for Palestinians and for Muslims since October 7th, so too has it been for the Jewish community. And there was one particular gathering that the Jewish community put together after 6 hostages were found dead, and Cassandra showed up in person. I actually wasn't even there in person. I watched online, and I could see Cassandra from afar, and it meant so much. Cassandra, to me, you are somebody who knows how to be in partnership, to really see the other, to really hear the other, and to really see the wholeness of that. And so I really value your partnership, your allyship, and your embrace of what does it mean to be put on this earth for good and great things, in support of a more just and a more kind world. So I will miss you, and I know that the students are getting someone really incredible. All students, Jewish students, Christian students, Muslim students, atheist students. So I think they're going to have a delight getting to know you, and I hope you are filled with delight on this next part of your journey. So thanks, Nina, for inviting me to say a few words.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Becca, and pass it to you.
Thanks. Yeah, I have to echo actually what Rabbi Esther just shared about the calmness. It's something that I am so grateful for when I'm rushing into the office and I'm like, oh, I'm like frazzled. And I feel like your presence immediately creates a space for me to slow down and be more mindful about where I'm at and what I'm doing. But I'm so grateful for everything that I've learned from you over the past 2 years. In such a short time, I feel like I've gleaned so much just from how you approach this work. And the thing that I am most grateful for in seeing how you do this work is that you approach it not from a place of what we do, but it's about becoming the kind of person that creates the world that we all want to live in. And you live that out with such compassion and passion and justice and integrity. And it means so much to have had this opportunity to see how you do that, so that I can try to grow in that way as well. And just to share a favorite memory with you is when we went on the hike in Yellowstone National Park after the Faith Over Fear training with Petra El Sufi from ISPU. And I feel like that was just one example of how you embody the holistic nature of the work that we do, and caring for our whole selves, and integrating everything into this life. So thank you. And you're going to be so missed.
Thank you, Becca. Open Zoom mic. If anyone would like to share a word of thanks or even a memory of Cassandra. feel free to just unmute yourself and share.
What I've appreciated about Cassandra is an intellectual honesty, a pursuit of information, and a willingness to critique our own Christian community at times when we've not measured up to the best of our ideals. It's been such a pleasure to be able to know that I could send an email or text and get a response. So you're there, you're helpful, you've always been, and I'm gonna miss you. Hopefully we'll stay in touch. I still have your phone number, so we'll stay in touch. But thank you for the service that you've done for Shoulder to Shoulder. And I look forward to hearing what happens at the university, and I'm sure you're going to have a bunch of students that are going to love you as much as we have. So blessings to you in your journey to come.
Thanks, Martin. Sarah, I saw that you unmuted yourself. Go for it.
Thanks. Yeah, Cassandra, I think of you as a very positive person. And I think in this work, that's really a really important thing that you've somehow balanced really well to be very positive and optimistic, but while at the same time very real and realistic about what the struggles are in our communities. And I think of when you all came to Chicago for the Faith Over Fear training, and the night before it started, we had dinner together, and there was just a lot of laughter. And I always, whenever I think of you with a smile on your face. And we're going into some intensive work for the weekend, but with a spirit of joy. And I really appreciate that. And also all the different connections you've made to resource people and resource documents and all sorts of things that you shared with me. And always there with how can I help? Thanks so much. All the best to you as you come closer to us. In Iowa, it's not too far away.
Thanks for sharing. Would anyone else like to offer a word?
Hey, Nina, this is Nessa.
Hey,
Sorry,
go for it.
I'm not on camera because I'm not well. Been struggling with this. I don't know what it is. Flu, cough, all the above stuff going on. But I don't think there's a lot I can say to describe all the emotions that I feel for Cassandra, because she and I have traveled the world together for work. We've traveled this country for work, and I've seen sides of her that some of you might not have seen in a good way. If music starts on and she'll start dancing and let me record her and post it to show that we're human and that we do have time to not always be serious, and that we can be playful and we can show sides of ourselves that are so different in terms of the work that we're doing, because we're always on a performance stage as people doing this type of work. But I do want to point out that one great quality that she has is that she doesn't gatekeep. And I say that because she has pulled me into many different events and projects as a Muslim woman to participate and train with. And I really appreciate that about her. Not everyone is going to be that open and bringing other people in and giving them space to be part of something that not everyone gets to participate in. So I just want to say thank you, Cassandra, for that. Thank you for being a very good friend of mine, not just colleagues. We're always going to be friends. We talk all the time. I know you're going a little further west, but it's not a goodbye. It's more like you'll be coming back to DC kind of thing. I'm hoping. But it's great to see you grow, and you deserve every goodness that comes your way. Thank you.
Thank you, Nessa. Lita.
Hey everyone. I don't have too much to add, only because everyone covered literally all the amazing qualities about you, and I do want to add some context. Like, I think Shoulder to Shoulder, and y'all probably know this, like, has a very special place in my heart. Like, when I first started my job at Shoulder to Shoulder at American Divisible, Shoulder to Shoulder was the first organization I was exposed to and the first organization that we worked with. And so I'm a big fan. And I think, Cassandra, like, I've seen you in so many different random spaces where I felt uncomfortable or didn't know anybody else, but you were just so welcoming and allowed me to be myself and joke around and like still be serious and just have a really great time. And Hernessa just mentioned all these qualities about you, and we just recently went to Alabama and Montgomery, and I would say that's probably my favorite memory because we were just looking for trouble in the hotel room, even though there was nothing else to do. But we were just goofing around and very curious, to say the least. And it's honestly one of my favorite memories. And I'm sad that we didn't get to work more together. And I'm sad I didn't take advantage of being in DC with you to really build on this friendship. But I am very excited for you, and the students are gonna thrive with your leadership. So good luck, and you have my number. I have your number, so it's not the end.
Anyone else before I say a few?
Yeah, I had unmuted myself, but uh, I'm not as involved with Shoulder to Shoulder as many of you are. I really believe in the organization and I tune in when I can. But I am so grateful, especially to Sandra, for her patience, because as she knows, every time there's something I want to join, I have a trouble with the technology. I can't join. And she's always so gracious and so patient. And she doesn't make me feel stupid, which I feel stupid myself. But she's always, it's Cassandra, I am so grateful for your kind patience with folks like me. And the students that you're going to are very, very blessed. And I wish you every blessing.
Thank you. I love this. My heart feels so warm. The little bit that I will add, echoing everything that has been shared, just to say that Cassandra, you always go above and beyond what is expected of you. And you are, the kind of teacher who prepares 4 hours worth of material for a half an hour class, or the kind of student who does extra credit before it's even assigned just because you wanted to. And, that in part is because you're so creative and you're someone who can move an idea into reality, which not everyone can do both so effectively. We both joined this organization 7 years ago, and we've been through a lot together, from carpooling to learning and experimenting and processing and growing and developing. And I'm just so happy for you that you'll get to spread your wings in a new town and a new role, doing the same work, the same work of building more inclusive and pluralistic communities, but just from a different angle and a different capacity locally, which in my opinion is so, and perhaps the most essential. So, Grinnell College is lucky to have you, and wishing you all the best on this next adventure. Just really, really grateful. Before we close out, we just have a few more minutes. I want to bring Cassandra in to say a word, and also bring back Kaitlin to say a word to close us out. And I've asked, we all just took this time, this little hour, to reflect on gratitude and taking pause and what it means in this work that we do, and really wanting to invite Cassandra and Kaitlin to help us think about what is our call to action, now that we had this moment together. Cassandra, why don't you go first? You're muted.
Thank you. It's that pop-up again. I'm going to put it on gallery view so I can see everybody. Hi, friends. I have contemplated this change in role for a while. And I know that when the job actually came through, it now isn't that long from when the job came through to when I'm leaving. And so I know that there's some of that. And for me, one of the reasons I joined Shoulder to Shoulder was to work with you, Catherine, and like Bert Vizosky and other executive committee members who I'd met through my other work and international work with Dr. El Sanusi and others. And to like get to start at the same time as you, Nina, and Catherine go out on parental leave like 2 days later. Leaving us with a very detailed Google document. And I was so grateful because I deeply believe from the work that I've done before that our community leaders, our religious leaders, our peace builders in this country are people that help weave the social fabric of our country and can help weave that social fabric for good. And many of them are. And so I was really grateful for this chance to shift to the domestic work from my international space because I was feeling that call to responsibility to my own land and my own country. And for an issue that I have felt close to since 2000. And you may not know that the first workshops to counter anti-Muslim discrimination that I led was in 2005, four, when recently graduated from undergraduate with my religious studies degree, I felt compelled to lead a class on Islam for my local church and invited the local imam to have conversations with folks and to hear the Quranic recitation and to understand the pillars of Islam. And little did I know that particular care would continue on for these 20 years. Wow, 20 years. That's a lot. And ultimately, when I decided that it was time to move on to a new role and to move on from DC, I felt a real sense of gratitude and care from all of you, and that I feel strong and held and part of this movement because of all of you, and from all the ways that you all have cared for me, from dancing and singing loudly to peanut butter jelly sandwiches and shared lunches in our old office when Catherine was still here and Nina was still here, to just running into each other in DC and around the country and around the world doing this work. And so I'm incredibly grateful in that I couldn't see myself doing what I'm about to do without all of you helping me see that in me. And on Saturday, I led a workshop on peace for women, for a Christian women's group, and talking about shalom and the wholeness and healing that God seeks for all of us and for the world. And this work is about healing and wholeness for me. And I don't learn how to be healed or whole without my community, and without God and without seeking justice with all of you. And so I'm really grateful. And I hope you can forgive any of my shortcomings. And I trust that we'll continue to be on each other's minds and come together in new ways as we all continue on our pilgrimages and walk this earth, and as we continue on past this. So thank you all. Yeah.
Sending love, Cassandra. Sending love. In our last 2 minutes Kaitlin, you started us off with such beautiful reflections. Close us off with a word.
Yeah, I want to read a poem to you, Cassandra, because as you were sharing, just thinking about this idea of patchwork and quilting and bringing together these pieces of your own story, and then you're bringing all these people with you, which I think is so beautiful. And I have a poem I wrote maybe 2 weeks ago, and I'm just thinking of it for you now as sort of a blessing to send with you, and then I'll say something to everyone else. But this is for you. The universe holds you like a grandmother over her sewing table, a needle and thread in her tenderly calloused hands, scraps of fabric layered about the place. She gathers you, the bits and pieces that make up your everyday, your best and worst season, and with her needle and thread brings all of you close, gently sewing them together to create the sacred labyrinth story of you. Her hands will eternally work, never quite finished, because the starlight that you came from will be the dusty cosmos you magically return to in the end. Grandmother knows this, and as she tends to the corners of your story, the shape of you becomes clear. A labyrinth of patchwork, a cosmos of holiness, an entire universe held in starlight. That's for you. For everyone else, I just want to say my favorite Rumi quote, which I share everywhere on all the time, but I will keep sharing it because it's beautiful, is stay in the spiritual fire, let it cook you. Stay in the spiritual fire, let it cook you. And so much of what we have to fight in this time is becoming overwhelmed and sort of starting something and getting scared, or starting something and doubting ourselves, or starting this journey and feeling like it's not enough, or it's not right, or we're not showing up right. And so much of it is to trust our spiritual fire. The Potawatomi are the people of the place of fire. So our shkode, our fire, is so important, not for us as just as Potawatomi people, but all of us. We all have a spiritual fire. We were born with it. We will pass on with it. It's always there. And this idea of staying in that spiritual fire and letting it cook us, letting it tend to us, letting it create new things in us and change us is so beautiful. And that's lifelong work. And so I want us to hold that view of things, that this is lifelong work, that this will take time, that it is day to day, moment to moment. We stay in the spiritual fire and we let it cook us. And I think that's a beautiful thing to hold on to as we go. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, amen, says Rabbi Esther. All right. Have a good rest of your day, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. Thank you again, Kaitlin. And of course, thank you, Cassandra, for everything.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining.